Hey guys, we are back. It's Ted Bogert with the TED Show on one of my very favorite series with truly one of my very favorite people. Talk it out with the one and only Kendra Davies with Stellar
Ah,
Life Coaching. What's happening, Kendra? How you doing?
hello, everybody. Thanks for having me as always, Ted. It's always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure, and I hate it when my technology or my radiation schedule or I don't know, something gets in the way
You're-
of my insanity and we have to change things, which we did last week.
yeah.
But I love this topic. I did not want to not have a discussion about finding and maintaining hope because I think a lot of people are
Mm,
in that mode. But before we jump into that, for those people who are just joining for the very first time, where have you been? Tell us a little bit about you, Kendra.
So my name is Kendra Davies, and I am a positive psychology practitioner and a life coach, and I own Stellar Life Coaching here in, I was about to say New York, uh, Orlando.
Hey, it's all right. New
We're moving
York's
up
fine.
in Orlando. And I work with individuals, couples, businesses. I do public speaking. I host women's retreats and workshops. And I help my clients identify, define, and cultivate their happiness and live their best lives. And it's my passion and it's my life's work. And yeah, that's who I am. That's what I do.
I love it when people say, "Are you going to do another show with that feisty redhead?" I like feisty. That's good.
Hmm.
Because that they remember the conversations. The conversations are memorable, and that's why I love it when I throw a topic at you and you're like, "How about we do this?" Which is fine. I actually prefer that because you have your finger on the pulse of that kind of stuff, and I think it's super
Yeah.
important that we have a discussion on that. So hope. Where did hope come
Hope.
from?
So I
Where'd
always
that
like to talk
topic
about,
come from?
oh, well, I mean, the world is on fire, Ted. I feel like hope, we're trying to decide if we're going to let our kids open up schools. We're making decisions, and I feel like there's this overwhelming sense of, I don't want to say hopelessness, but I think that people are being feeling defeated, and hope is one of those tactics that, it's not a tactic, it's a way of being, it's a state that we can actually generate for ourselves. Yeah. And I wanted to talk about hope because I just feel like we need it. Like we need hope for ourselves, we need hope for the future, we need hope for our lives and what can be. And I think that people oftentimes think that hope is rose colored glasses or looking at
They
the
do.
world and just saying, it's okay, it could be worse.
Right.
and and that to me is not hope. That is not hope. It could be worse is a cop out. That is
It's
not
bad.
gratitude.
I don't want to
It's
think that
not
way.
helpful. It's like hope is hope theory from a positive psychology perspective, uh, is this idea. It has three tenets. One is that you can articulate a clear goal. You, Part two is that you see the pathways. You know and understand a strategy to get from point A to point B. And then the third part is that you have agency. You believe that you have the fundamental tips, tricks, tools, resources, connections to get yourself from point A to point B. That is hope, right? It is far more associated with doing and cultivating than just looking at it and being like, oh, well, this sucks, but it could be worse.
Well, so we had before we went live, I had promoted some, and a few people messaged me and said, "Listen, Ted, the last thing we need is hope. We need a positive plan." And I said, "Well, I
Oh, you froze, Ted. Is
don't
it me?
understand how you can't have hope there." Oh, well, you're still there for
Or
me. I hope you're still
okay,
there. Can you hear me?
you're there now. Yeah, yeah,
Good.
yeah.
So I feel like people mistake hope for an actionless thing, when in reality, I feel like
Mm,
hope has a lot of action behind it.
yeah. Hope is generated by the idea of agency, like to have personal agency. Agency is like autonomy. Like, do I believe that I can? Does that make sense? So,
Yes.
like, you can have the action plan. That's excellent. You can give me the instructions. But if I don't believe that I have the fundamental fundamentally required skills and resources to make that plan come to fruition, then I won't have hope.
Correct.
And so when for instance, if I'm talking to somebody who's been stuck for years, yeah, somebody who really identifies with, like, they just got served the shit sandwich, hit after hit after hit, life has beat them up and they're stuck, right?
Yeah.
The first thing I want to do is work on agency. You know, there's this idea of learned helplessness, right? Where we can
Yes.
learn, we can learn when life beats us up that it doesn't matter what we do, that we can't affect change, that I can't change the outcome of this abusive situation or my shitty boss, you know, like I can't change them. And I try to communicate and I try this and I try that and I get help and I talk to the people and it doesn't work. And I learn, I become, it becomes a process of learning that I'm helpless to affect change. Hope is one of those things where we can begin to cultivate agency and make small wins and let them add up and build on each other to have a vision of being able to actually be successful again. How do I
Love that.
learn how to be able to affect change again, to believe that I can affect change again?
I love that because I think I love what you just said about the small progress, the small milestones, because I think people
Mm-hmm.
get so caught up. All right, I hope for the best, and then one little thing's disappointing, or they only make a teeny bit of progress in their mind, and then
Yeah.
all the hope goes out the window, all the belief, all of the
Mm-hmm.
positive energy, and it all goes. And I think that they measure hope in this big, giant, global way. Where it really
Mm,
can be compartmentalized smaller, it can be done in smaller steps, which is what you sort of
yeah.
mentioned before.
And I think at the end of the day, what makes activism possible is hope. Like if I do not see a way forward, right? If I do not see the possibility of going from point A to point B, if I don't see that, then I'm not going to make action. I'm not going to take action to do that. So I think you can apply the same idea to global issues. But I think for me, when I brought up the topic, I was talking about individuals because there's so much that we're powerless over right now, that,
Right.
and there's so much uncertainty that we cannot control, that for me, focusing on agency and allowing myself to acknowledge, you know, sometimes, some days it's just, I put on a bra today, you know, like high five me.
High
Like
five to you.
that's me winning. You know what I mean? My kid wasn't on his iPad for 10 hours today. Winning, right? Like sometimes we have to recognize that we're holding ourselves to a standard that no longer serves us,
Right.
and that we are we're no longer holding space or acknowledging those little things that actually show us that we have agency. We're saying, well, if I didn't finish it, if I didn't graduate, if I didn't be the best or the first or the only, then it doesn't count and it doesn't matter. And that's just not, it's not true.
Can you be angry and hopeful?
Yeah, of course.
Define that, because I think that people get confused. I think people feel like they have to be one or the other. I'm
Mm,
angry, so I can't think positive, because hope is a positive word. That's a positive state of mind. I feel like when you're hopeful, you're thinking of the positive outcomes of what you want to see. But I think because so many people are angry and frustrated right now, they're only identifying with that, and they
mm.
don't think about the things that they can be hopeful for.
So I think that, because I'm trying to digest what you just said, and like the thing that rubbed me the wrong way right away was this idea that being hopeful is only positive. Like I don't agree. I believe in fact that hope is most often born out of anger, fear, and negative emotion. Like it becomes the fire that motivates us to turn it around and say, okay, like this is the shit that happened to me. This is the thing that I did that got this negative result. I don't like that. I need to change that. Something has to give. Something must break away and fall away. And we got to build something new. The build something new part is where hope comes in, right? But the foundation for hope has to be there. Clear,
True.
clear goals, pathways, clear vision of what point A to point B is, and then the belief that I have the agency, the self-guiding capacity to execute that plan on that pathway. Does that make sense?
Why would I, so I'm going to ask you questions. Why would I have hope if my outcome, if I don't have a thought process of having a positive outcome? Does hope always mean a positive outcome? I mean, why else? Otherwise, there's people who are out there, which we both know there are, who are taking action, and there's a revenge, there's an anger, it's done in a way where hurting the other side is, whatever the other side is the actual ultimate goal. But having hope to hurt the other side, that doesn't feel like a definition of hope for me. So,
but
explain.
I don't think
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, hope is not an end goal. Hope is the process between 2 points. Yeah. It is not an end goal. It's not an outcome. So when you say that hope ends in positive, I don't think that we know what it ends. We look at a screen and we say, this is point A and this is point B. This could be positive and negative. This could be negative and negative. It's just point A and point B, whatever that is to you. Hope is being able to have a clear and articulate goal, being able to visualize the pathways and strategies to get from point A to point B, and then having the personal agency and belief in yourself that you can do that thing. It is not connected to a positive or negative end goal.
I'm going to continue to throw stuff at you because I could substitute what I'm hearing, and I want to get defined.
Sure.
You could substitute in what you just said the word hate for hope. Because all of those things are also motivating. There's a means to an end. You have something you're going to do. It's what binds you. It's what throws you. It's what motivates you. So how is it that both of those things could have the exact same outcome based on what the person is feeling? So how are hate and hope then different?
Well, I think based on the point that you just gave, I don't think I have anything in my
No.
No, I think that the most obvious difference, right? The most obvious difference is going to be the outcome. But what I'm saying is that hope isn't about outcome. Hope is about believing that it's possible to have a better, different outcome.
Yes,
I do not, but it's not necessarily world peace. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
It's not the confirmed list. These 3 points will be met. I'm hopeful for those 3 points to be met. No, it's that I see a way, I see a goal, I see a path to get there, and I believe that I can walk the path. I could crawl that path, I could drive that path, I could demolish that path, I could have to get a machete and get in there and start making and clearing that path myself. But I believe that I can. I do not believe that hope and hate are the same, obviously. And this is where it gets hard. Like when you asked the question earlier, like, we don't need hope. You know, I would argue that more than anything, we need hope in humanity right now. More than anything, we need hope in humanity. We can have all the action plans in the world. Do you know what I mean? When I am so convinced that I am right, if I believe that I am so right, that I believe that I am empowered to hurt or jeopardize other human beings, I don't know that anybody is wrong, but I know for a fact you can't be any more sure about being right than I can, and I can't be sure about being right about much right now in the world. You know what I mean? So it's like, we need hope, we need humanity, we need to step back and reconnect. Like, what is the clear goal? What exactly are we trying to achieve? You know, because I feel like that is the part that's missing on this path. Right. We get focused on end goal. Like, what does it look like to be back to normal? That's not necessarily giving hope.
I agree with you. I totally agree. You know, I agree with everything you said before too, but I know how it's an interesting thought process, the way that you described it, because in my brain, I always thought of hope as the ultimate positive glue that gets you from step A to step B, and then B to C,
Yeah.
and then to your end goal. But I like what you're saying in that it doesn't necessarily always have to be like that. You have
Yeah.
hope is, but hope for a lot of people, when you hear that word, that's like the ultimate, all right, I'm going to hang on because I have hope in XYZ.
Hmm.
And for a lot of people right now, they're hanging on to that.
Yeah. But even think about that. I can have hope that my crappy relationship will be less crappy, right? I mean, it's not about the end goal. It is just like, this is what I mean by like, I don't want you to get attached to the word positive. It can be better, right? The hope, the idea here is that it will be better. But at the end of the day, there isn't a certainty or a guaranteed outcome with hope. Hope and faith are more likely connected than hate, right?
Correct.
Like hope is just that fundamental belief that it is a possibility.
And I think in our world right now, with what's going on, that there are a lot of people who have gotten past the hope of making change. And so that's where the hate, and hate's a strong word, but the hate, the negativity, the disruption, the want to change, the I'm tired of all this bull, is the motivating factor that actually is connecting them from A to B, because they want to see change. Do they hope that there's change? Yeah, you could put that spin on it if you wanted, but what you're saying is much deeper and much more in tune with how people are feeling. I have to make this change. So whatever I'm feeling, I've got to get from point A to point B, because I cannot live at point A anymore.
Yeah. And I think that, there's research, like you could score, they have hope scales where you can measure how hopeful you are as a person, right? There's some people who have high hope and low hope. Like it's like a measurable skill set, like anything else, which also means it can be cultivated and grown, right? With effort and time. But if you have low hope, right? Hope theory says that we have 3 areas that we could focus on if we wanted to improve it. There's an element, and it's like 2 parts. To me, as an individual, I score high in hope. I am an optimist. I am a hopeful person. I don't believe that anything is really impossible. You know what I mean? Like it's I'm hard pressed to name shit I can't do or believe that you can't do, right? Or as a whole that we can't do.
Yes.
However, I think that at the end of the day, I have to ask myself, if I can choose which perspective I'm going to view the world with, which one serves me better? To believe that people are generally doing the best that they can, that there are pathways and solutions available if I can take the right action, read the right books, connect to the right resources, find a way. And if I believe that I have the inherent qualities that enable me to execute that path. Or I can shift over into this other perspective, and it's the polar opposite, where I stay stuck and I don't believe people are doing the best they can, and I don't believe that there's a path out, right? This is as good as it gets. At some point in time, you have to ask yourself, which one serves you better?
Don't you think that's where
Which
the
perspective
desperation
serves you
comes
better?
from? Oh, I'm sorry. That's where the desperation comes from. What you just described is where I feel like a lot of people are right now
Yeah.
and have been. They are
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, it is, I don't see it changing. I don't feel like what's going on is working. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
my situation. I don't like what's going on in the world. And they get to that almost that boiling point of, all
Sure.
right, I have to make a change. And that change from point A to point B has nothing to do with hope, which is what you were describing earlier. It's not a positive thing. It's I can't effing take this anymore. I have to do something to change
Mm-hmm.
my
But I
environment.
think that, what you're describing is the reason why you're desperate is because the goal isn't right sized.
Yes. Oh, I love
You
that.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yes.
you're making your goal to fix the unemployment website. Guess what, darling? You can't do that.
You can.
Like, it's not that I'm not dismissing the frustration. I'm not dismissing the anger. My assistant hasn't been able to get unemployment, right? For like 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
Ridiculous.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's wild. She's not even getting a response. She spent more than 4 days on hold, 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day on hold and never gets spoken to by another human being. And it just clicks on her at 5 p.m. and says, we're closed.
It's
like,
so,
that frustration is real. But here's
real.
the thing. If your goal is to fix the unemployment website, you're 100% correct. You're going to be angry, disappointed, let down, and that is going to create more negative emotion. The goal has to be right sized and appropriate. It cannot be a goal. It's not a goal if it's something you have zero control over.
Correct.
That's not, you
so
can't
important.
accomplish that.
That is so important. If you can't control it, that can't be your goal. It can't be the thing that you're focused on fixing, because you can't fix it. You can't fix the unemployment. I have representatives that are like Anna Escamani, for one, who post all the time about how the system's a mess. And I'm just using her as an example because I just read something. Even she can't fix it. So if she can't fix it and she's in government, you can't either. So you have to focus on the things that you can change or you can make an impact on.
And I feel like when we shift our perspective and we recognize that just because you call it a goal doesn't mean it's an appropriate goal. And just because you can doesn't mean you must, right? Like, choosing and being able to articulate a goal that is right-sized, that is actually something you could actually succeed at. It's not a goal if it's absolutely fucking impossible. Like, if there's no chance that you'll ever be able to do it.
Kendra.
It's just not reasonable. That's not a goal, right? That is not going to lead you to a path of hope, is what I'm getting at. So in your example, I would say the 3 parts, having a clear goal that you can articulate, the pathways, and then the agency. I would say that the first step was not done correctly in the example that you gave.
Agreed. I love it, because I think people have a hard time because emotions are so super high right now. And so to differentiate, to take that little step back almost seems impossible, because everybody's on this snowball. It's happening. Whatever's happening is happening, and you have to figure out where you're at in that, how you're going to take action. But I love the example of the unemployment, because I think a lot of people really, really, really don't understand that if you're focusing on that thing, you are missing the boat, because you cannot change that thing.
And here's the thing, though, but like with that, it's also, I realize that I'm saying don't focus on that while you're also not making money. Like, while you're not able to meet the needs of your family. Like, what I'm saying is, if we obsess about the thing that we cannot change, we're just going to experience learned helplessness and feel defeated. Whereas if we can focus on what we can do, anything, and not to fix the website and not to get unemployment, but thinking more outside the box and asking other questions and figuring out what we can do for ourselves to meet the demands of the moment, then I find that we're going to be able to find some peace in the process, right? And that hope isn't necessarily hope that I'm going to get unemployment. My hope is that this can be better.
Yes.
This situation, this moment can be better, that my family can be better, that in 30 days, I could do something with any effective change, right? Even if that is calling food shelters or food pantries, even if it is reaching out to those people who are making Facebook posts about, if you run out of food, you call me, right? Like, you don't have to do this alone.
Those. Call me, by the way. I'm sure Kendra's the same. You have to. I love that post. But I think people are looking for, because emotions are high, Rose said it too, the anxiety is high. People are looking for something that they can do, because the lack of control is what makes people crazy. One of the reasons why I used to have a hard time flying is because I'm not the pilot. So I'm not the pilot, I'm not in control. And I think that we have to figure out, all right, this is what I can control, but defining that, I think, is also a challenge for some people, because you go, all right, well, I can't control the website. I can't control the fact that I don't have an unemployment check right now. What do I do? If I don't
Yeah.
focus on that, what am I going to focus on?
Yeah. And I think that the fear, this, I want to be mindful because I recognize that we only have 30 minutes. So we are literally taking a sound bite of something, right? And we're using this example, which is very real for people. So I don't want it to come across like we are saying that you should just get over it.
No,
That is
the
not
complete opposite of that. Yes, agreed.
the idea here is to offer a pathway to some peace and to say that you can focus on other ways of feeling empowered. I can give you another example that's not related to any of this. Like when it comes to food, right? I have a client who keeps saying, like I can't say no. Can't say no to cookies, and I can't say no to cake, and I can't say no to sugar. And my question is, well, what do you get out of it?
Right.
And he'll tell me, he's like, I mean, I don't get anything out of it. I'm like, that's impossible. You keep doing it. You don't want to. It does not support your ultimate goals to take better care of yourself. You have high cholesterol, right? Like you have health concerns and you're making this decision over and over again. So what do you get out of it? And what it comes down to is that his job is so demanding and he works 60 to 80 hours a week. He is exhausted and he has no power. And so when it comes to food, he has all the power in the world over, he's the only one who controls what goes in and out of his mouth.
Correct.
Right? And so when it comes down to it, he is completely depleted from an energy perspective to make healthy decisions. And it's the only power he has. He gets to say what he wants. What he wants matters when it comes to food. He can choose it, he can buy it, and then he can consume it. He's an all power, right? To me, hope in that example is that I need to find ways to be hopeful that I can feel empowered in a different way. Right. Things I can control. I can cut off my work schedule. I can say that I can't work after 6 p.m. So sorry, work. And guess what? The work is going to be there tomorrow. Correct. You're not going to work for 12 hours today and then it all be done tomorrow. They're not going to let you go because you finished the job, right? Like that's not how it works. Correct. So we can control our schedule. We can control what food is in the house, right?
Yes.
We can have accountability partners. We can make better choices and schedule breaks to have physical exercise. So when it comes down to making a food choice, I'm going to be more inclined to say, I'm going to go for a run or I'm going to go for the gym later. I don't want to eat that beforehand because it's going to feel gross.
Correct.
Do you see what I'm saying?
When you flip the switch like that, you're also in control. It's just a different control. You have the control to say no or to say not now or to say not right now or not this particular thing. And so, but those go ahead. Those two things I love that example.
And I think the thing that's most important to point out is that we didn't change the goal to not eat sugar.
Correct.
We changed the goal to, I want to feel empowered in a different way. Because the problem wasn't the food, the problem isn't the website, the problem isn't the thing that's outside. It is what we are getting from the experience, right? Correct. And so when we get real about that, we can change the goal to meet that demand. And that is going to ultimately shift, the furniture of the soul. That's going to move all the things around and create a new experience.
So before we head out, we had a lot of people ask before we went live.
Oh yeah?
What do I, and then we'll head out after this, but this is such an important question and I love it. What is a step or two, or what can people do if they're currently feeling hopeless? What's one step that they can take? What's one thing that isn't a Herculean task? Because when you get hopeless, because I've been there, I'm sure you've been there. Yeah. You feel like no step's going to matter. And yet that first step does really matter. Something matters when you're making progress toward getting out of that. So is there any tool or anything that you can give them?
So one, I would say get support. I think that hopelessness is one of those things that it's really hard to teeter. You don't teeter that line for long before it becomes toxic and very dangerous. So if you're feeling hopeless, do not be afraid to reach out for support. A coach, a therapist, a psychologist, a friend, your parents, your cousins, whatever. like ask for the support that you need, because it is a dangerous line to walk for too long. That's number one. Number two, oh, my darlings, honor the little things. You know, when we use this measuring stick that was given to us, the world told us that this is what it means to be a woman and a man and a good person and a good employee. Like, these things, the world has told us what they are, and we're using this measuring stick. And when the world does what the fuck it is doing now, which is being turned upside down on its head, we still want to take that same old measuring stick and measure ourselves with it. And it's not appropriate anymore. This isn't apples to apples. This is not, this is new. This is different.
Right.
Choose a measuring stick for yourself. Ask yourself if the measuring stick that you are using, yes, is appropriate and represents who you are and what you believe is good. In most instances, the measuring stick we're using is flawed. Yes. It's not appropriate, or it doesn't represent who we are.
Great.
And number three, I guess,
three,
is celebrate. We're losing celebration. You know, these little wins that we have in a day where I can actually get my kid to eat and I get food ready and I work a full day and I don't feel like an asshole or a shitty mom. I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to have one of my mini drumsticks, and my kid and I are going to have a gratitude conversation because we won today.
Right.
And I think that we have to be willing to celebrate. It won't look the way that we thought it should, but we have to be able to celebrate the little wins every single day. And you don't have to reward yourself with ice cream every time. It could be 5 minutes of a dance party in your living room. Just cut loose, shake it off.
Yeah.
Shake it off and allow yourself to really experience the wins that you are having when they happen. Like, honor them, no matter how small they are. You got up and put a bra on? Let's do it.
We're all happy for you.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be big. But if we don't celebrate these little wins, then we're most likely not going to celebrate the big wins either.
Celebration is so important. All right. So that was amazing. Thank you, Kendra Davies, Stellar Life Coaching. Best way to reach her, obviously, stellarlifecoaching.com, or I tag her and everything, so you can click on the tag and reach out to her.
Yeah. Message me.
Amazing. That was such an important conversation. I love the dialogue. More people need to hear it, and we do need to celebrate the little things. So I celebrate you. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. Look forward to this every week. Kendra Davies, thanks.
Thank you so much.
You guys, the one thing she said, though, all of it, if you're feeling hopeless, it is a very teeny tiny tightrope that you're walking. Reach out to somebody, let somebody know, because it can turn like that. So we love you guys so much. Love you, Kendra. You're the best. We'll see you next week. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.